of students are expecting that if they clear an exam, that's it, then they deserve 20, 30, 50 lakh, 5
Exactly.
lakh as their first salary.
Exactly.
And they're not willing to go through the grind for a while without expecting much.
Yeah. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि ये मतलब उनको लगता है कि ये बहुत छोटी चीज़ है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल दे फील कि अरे यार मैं तो सीए बन गया हूँ, मैं तो सीएफए बन गया हूँ, मैं अभी इंटर्नशिप क्यों करूँ, मैं तो फुल टाइम जॉब के लिए एलिजिबल हूँ. बट दे आर नॉट गेटिंग लाइक दे आर नॉट कैलकुलेटिंग द प्रोज और वी द कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस में जो बेनिफिट्स मिलने वाले 6 महीने के बाद, दैट इज समथिंग विच इट्स नॉट गेटिंग कंसिडर्ड.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Finance Forward. And today we have with us somebody I guess you must have seen either on YouTube or on LinkedIn or on Instagram. We have Kushal Lodha, who is not only a chartered accountant but has ranked in each of the levels, and not even just ranked, all India ranked 5 and 6 between Foundation, Inter CA, Final CA, post which he completed all the 3 levels of CFA, and then he started ACCA and completed that. Over and above that, he's worked with Aditya Birla, and now he has his own venture called KAGR, K-A-G-R, which we'll dive into a little bit, where he talks about how to be prepared to enter into the world of finance, and as niche as investment banking and management consulting, which honestly, I know a lot of students aspire to get into, but don't know how to. Finally, content creation. Over 6 lakh followers across all the platforms. So with that, welcome Kushal.
Thank you so much, Pradhan, for such a lovely introduction. I don't think I deserve such a sweet introduction, but your story has been very inspiring and I have been following your journey as well, and means a lot. I hope I can add some value to this conversation.
Thank you so much. So great, let's just dive into the first most interesting thing, right? In the recent past, I've seen a lot of your posts on what is it that candidates who are pursuing anything in academics and then a specific industry, how much can they expect as salary? So I've seen when you speak from investment banking, again, management consulting, you've spoken about CFA level 1, what you expect, level 2 and 3, what you expect, etc., etc. So just to kick it off, can you summarize whatever you have recently learned about the world of finance and salary packages for these guys?
For sure. So I think finance is itself a very close-knit industry, and like it's booming out very well. Like CFA Institute did one survey where they got to know that in 2018, finance was the 5th preferred qualification for 10th and 12th students when they were asked what career choice you want to go ahead. 2022, they did this survey once again, and finance became the first preferred career choice of the people in USA. And they were saying that now people are aspiring towards finance because that is something which is required in almost every industry, be it a startup founder, be it an investment banker, be it, let's say, even a management consultant. You need to understand numbers. How do you, let's say, analyze like balance sheets, P&Ls and all of that. So that is something which was preferred. Talking about the salary ranges, right? There are a lot of courses in finance as well. You talk about CA, CFA, ACCA, which are the courses that we have done and which are the courses that are talked about. Even courses like CPA, CMA are picking up quite a stature in India as well. An average package which a chartered accountant gets in an ICI campus placement is around 9 lakhs per annum. So the total investment there is around 3.5 lakhs to 4 lakhs, including the coaching fees which is there. And you can get an average package of 9 lakhs. If you are a rank holder, you can get an average package anywhere between 18 lakhs to 30 lakhs per annum. There are companies like Aditya Birla Group where I did my first job paying 18 lakhs. There are companies like HUL, Maripo paying 30 lakhs per annum as well to CS as a first fresher. Yeah, if you are a rank holder. Talking about ACCA, so I think, of course, like you are a better person to answer this, but just basis my research as well, if you're just doing ACCA without any other qualification, then you can expect anywhere between rupees 5 to 7 lakhs per annum after you become an ACCA as a fresher itself. And talking about CFA now, CFA is like an interesting thing. Now, only if you do CFA and nothing else, let's say you don't do CA, ACCA, you don't do an IIM, Ahmedabad, MBA and all of that, then an average package for a CFA would also be in the range of 6 to 8 lakhs or can go up to 10 lakhs per annum in investment banking, etc. However, CFA Institute did a survey recently of 2,000 students, 2,000 CFA charter holders in India. Now, this is a small sample out of like the entire population of CFA. But that they got to know that these people are earning way more as compared to other people. So the average statistic that they mentioned in this CFA report, which is public, is that level 1 candidates can expect anywhere between 10 lakhs, level 2 candidates is 13 lakhs, level 3 is 16 lakhs. And they mentioned that level 3 charter holders who have like 4 years of work experience, they are getting 44.4 lakhs per annum is what they mentioned in that report. However, a caveat here is that these people are also IIM Ahmedabad graduates or IIM Bangalore graduates. So it is cognizant for us to recognize that these people have done MBAs also from these premier institutes. So it's only not because of CFA, but also because of other reasons which are there. So that this is like the average package which people can expect from the finance.
And what did you see CFA in isolation?
CFA in isolation would be around 6 to 8 lakhs and can go up to 10 lakhs if you get into investment banking. Mostly CFAs get into equity research or portfolio management. You read any analyst report or broking report, and the person who has done that research on a particular stock, 90% of these people would be CFAs. And I have done this analysis myself where I used to download these reports from Bloomberg when I was working at Aditya Birla Group. And I used to see that every person who has written this analyst report is a CFA. And this is like the most common preferred job for any CFA because they know how to, let's say, evaluate a particular stock. They know how to analyze the price earnings ratio, price to book ratio, all the technical concepts. And basis that, they give a very detailed recommendation whether you should buy this stock, sell this stock, or hold this stock.
Plus, it's a very entry level, it's the easiest, it has almost no barriers to entry for a CFA to get into equity research compared to, let's say, investment banking. Investment banking, either you have to also have luck on your side to get that right opportunity, or you need a little bit of experience, or you need to have an MBA along with CFA.
Yeah.
But equity research, at least, is more or less we've seen, because in our placement, whatever placement opportunities we get from students, it's mostly revolving around equity in the beginning.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Just adding one more point, right? You mentioned about investment banking. That's a fair point where people should have a prior experience in investment banking or they should do an MBA from the top tier institute. Now the problem here, which a lot of students ask me, is that first experience kaise milega? Like how do we get to the first experience, because they require prior experience, but everyone has to go do that investment banking at least once, right? So that's a common question which people ask, ki kaise jana kaise first time ke liye? There's an internship route which I recommend everyone. So I'll tell you an example of my friend. He got an All India rank 47 in his chartered accountancy examination. He cleared his CA. He got into Bank of America as an intern. He did not even join as a full-time employee. And he was getting around 35,000 to 40,000 per month at Bank of America as an intern for 6 months. They told him that if you work very meticulously for 6 months, we will give you a PPO, a full-time offer. He worked very hard. After 6 months, he got a PPO. You won't believe his fixed package was 35 lakhs per annum and variable can go up to 100%, which is again like a total of 70 lakhs per annum if the deal is going well, if the year is very good for that investment bank. So the point of telling this is that don't think that internships, even after you become an ACCA, CFA or CA, is bad. Even if you get an internship in a boutique investment bank, which is like a smaller investment bank or maybe a domestic investment bank, go for it. Just that you need to understand how do you work there, and automatically once you perform well, you will be placed in that investment bank.
Very nice. Yeah, because that's a problem that we've seen. A lot of students are expecting that if they clear an exam, that's it. Then they deserve 20, 30, 50 lakh, 5 lakh CR as their first salary. And they're not willing to go through the grind for a while without expecting much.
मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब उनको लगता है कि ये बहुत छोटी चीज़ है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल दिल फील कि अरे यार मैं तो CA बन गया हूँ, मैं तो CFA बन गया हूँ, मैं अभी इंटर्नशिप क्यों करूँ, मैं तो फुल टाइम जॉब के लिए एलिजिबल हूँ. बट they are not getting, like they're not calculating the pros or maybe the cost benefit analysis में जो benefits मिलने वाले 6 महीने के बाद, that is something which it's not getting considered. So if you do a proper CBA, which is taught in all our curriculums, cost benefit analysis, this is like the benefits after 6 months are going to outweigh the entire cost of the last 5 years as well as of the 6 months of internship.
Right. And you again, like I said, right, you enter in your all your content that we've seen, it's to do with a lot of people who are in their first 5 years of their journey and they are into investment banking, management consulting. So beyond this internship, if you can suggest to people how do they really search for these internships? If they want to get into IB or management consulting, what should be the pathway that they decide from the type of academies?
That's a good question. I'll tell you, there are 872 investment banks in India today, and this is as per Traction, December 2022 ka data hai. And people feel that out of these 872 banks, like bulge bracket banks, bulge bracket meaning the top tier banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citibank, these are called the bulge bracket banks. These are like 10 to 15 in total, sare milake. Then there is domestic investment bank like Kotak Investment Bank, HDFC ka Investment Bank, Avendus, Ambit Capital, Spark Capital, which are like incorporated in India. And then there are a lot of boutique investment banks. Boutique as in it's like a team size of 8 to 10 people maximum. And they're focusing only on one side of the investment banking. Like investment bank does a lot of work. So it's like initial public offering, like a lot of technicalities are there. I don't want to get into all the technicalities, but a boutique investment bank will focus only on one area. If it's M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, they will only focus on those companies which want to merge with another company or want to acquire any other company. So this is like a huge chunk in India now. So you talk like, you name 15 bulge bracket banks, 15 to 20 domestic banks, and then the remaining pool is boutique investment banks. So what I recommend everyone is that go on LinkedIn, and you will get the list of all these investment banks, by the way, on LinkedIn, or let's say even on Google. If you just search list of investment banks in India, try to just reach out to people in these companies is my opinion for all of them. So basically my advice for everyone is that just reach out to people who are working in boutique investment banks or any investment bank, wherever you want to get into. This is a very underrated trait where, let's say, people don't want to utilize their own time, or people don't want to reach out to people. They just feel that, okay, मैंने 10 लोगों को reach out कर दिया and इसमें से मुझे reply नहीं किया, अभी मेरे को कोई reply नहीं करने वाला है. But the point is that this 10 is a very small number. You need to reach out to at least 100 or 200 people, and अगर 2 भी reply कर दिए, that's a good number to understand. So that's one piece of advice I'd like to give everyone. If you want to get into these fields, talk to these people, network with them, and understand what are the skills that they want so that they can hire you. That is one. Second, it's like you need to be very active when you, let's say, create content on LinkedIn, or let's say when you're writing a thesis on a particular topic. I'll give you a simple example. One of my friends, Tushar Khandelwal, he basically wrote a thesis on Indigo Airlines, a 2-pager thesis, telling that, okay, why he thinks that the stock price of Indigo is going to go from rupees 1,000 to rupees 2,000 in the next 3 years. And he just mailed this thesis to 10 investment bankers, out of which he got calls from 5 investment banks as well for an interview, because they liked the thesis. And this has happened with multiple friends of mine, where they do some work, they, let's say, do an analysis on a particular stock, or just like, why should we invest in this? Why is this a good business model? And send a random email to these 10 people. And if they like, they'll very well get a job, or maybe at least they'll get an interview call. And he got into a boutique investment bank because of this thesis itself. So you should be very well versed, and you should send the right email to the right person, reach out to people on LinkedIn, and try to follow up. Like they'll tell you that, okay, we don't have vacancy right now, we have vacancy after 4 months or 6 months. Write it in your calendar or to-do list that you have to follow up with this bank after 6 months. So this is like, people don't have that discipline or consistency कि 6 महीने बाद कौन याद रखेगा, इतना follow up करना है, तब तक तो मेरी job भी लग जाएगी. But if you're very meticulous, then you should do that as well. So these are like 2-3 things which will help them get a job in iBanking. And rest, I think traditional routes, CA ranker, MBA grads, वो सब तो placements के through हो ही सकता है. If you want to get into like bulge bracket, then via an MBA is a good option. Via, let's say, CA rank is a good option. These companies approach CA rankers and MBAs because they prefer these kind of candidates. So that's another option if you want to get into IB.
Kushal, I have a question for you. You ranked in CA, right? So ACCA, CFA, all the way through. You were working in an entrepreneur. You were making 18 lakhs, is what you were saying. Now, why you leave such a lucrative job and start something of your own? And what was your financial stack right now?
Sure. So I'll tell you, I'll be again frank and transparent, and thanks for bringing this up. When I quit my job, which was 30th June 2022, the income from my content creation was more than the income from the salary that I was getting because of the brand endorsements or the brand collaborations or any other opportunities which were coming, ad shoots and all of that. So I'll tell you how the unit economics work in the creator economy. You can charge anywhere between rupees 2 to rupees 3 per view on YouTube. And assuming, let's say, you get 20 to 30,000 views per video on an average, you can charge around 60,000 to rupees 90,000 per video for a brand, like to a brand, for an integrated video. Integrated video meaning that if it's a 10 minutes video, you can promote the brand for 30 to 45 seconds in the middle, which will sound organic. For Instagram, this number is rupees 1 per view, where if you are getting, let's say, on an average 100,000 views, you can charge 1 lakh rupees for one reel. If you are getting the same number is rupees 0.5 per view on LinkedIn. If you are getting, let's say, 1 lakh views on LinkedIn per post, you can charge anywhere between rupees 50,000 to 60,000 per LinkedIn post. So for me, like when I was leaving my job, I was at a cumulative following of 300,000. And like I used to do on an average 2 to 3 brand collaborations per month, the brands that I was using. And like the income at that point in time used to be around 2 to 2.5 lakhs per month using brand collaborations itself. So that's what helped me in order to build a safety net. That's what helped me in order to take a plunge into entrepreneurship as well. One piece of advice for everyone would be that if you are taking a plunge into entrepreneurship, right? Like if you are passionate about an idea, you should definitely go for it. But people have that fear of failure, and people have that thought that agar nahi chala to main survive kaise kar paunga, and all of that. So for that, I encourage everyone to at least have some source of passive income or side income, which will help them in order to just take a risk or take a plunge. And that source of income should be more than sufficient to at least cover the expenses. And that's how like the lifestyle of that person should be determined, is my point. As far as current financial stats are concerned, I think like I've put in like a major chunk of my capital into my startup Kega. Of course, like we are just breaking even there right now. I'm not drawing any salary because it's just like 6th month into operation. But like the content thing is going well. This content thing has been going well since the last 6 months, like 12 months itself. I usually sign retainer contracts with brands in the sense that, okay, if I like a brand, then I'll sign a contract for 6 months. And I know that, okay, there's a certainty of cash flow which is there. And I have also invested like a good amount of money in like equities and mutual funds, which will help me at least generate like at least 15% is my target that I want on an annual basis. So the way I devise my entire strategy is that my passive income from stocks, from content, and from all my investments should be helping me in order to like survive and have that surplus as well, which I can put it into my startup ultimately. So that's how I plan my finances, and this helps me in order to just stay focused, and I don't have that fear right now that okay कुछ नहीं भी चला तो ऐसे मैं road पे नहीं आ जाऊँगा, in the sense that I'll be able to do something with the skill set that I have and with the following that I've built. I think I will be able to figure out, at least if not immediately, over the next 6 months or so.
Tell us about Kega.
Sure. So Kiger, basically the name came up with because of CAGR, compounded annual growth rate. So it's K because my name starts with K. Sorry if people are going to judge me here, but that's the name of Kiger. That's the reason behind the name. It's basically a simple finance upskilling company. Basically, we are providing upskilling like courses for people who want to get a job in finance. So I'll tell you my personal problem. I did CA, CFA, ACCA. I got into Aditya Birla Group. For the first 3 months, I didn't even know how to present in front of 10 people. I didn't even know how to build a financial model. I didn't even know how to, let's say, build a proper PPT with only 3 pointers and only, let's say, crisp pointers to explain to the management and all. I didn't even know how to use, let's say, VBA macros in an Excel sheet and all. My manager used to teach to me. And in fact, my manager complained to the HR that इसको सिखाओ थोड़ा and एक इसको upskilling का कोई program करवा दो. So Aditya Birla Group had to spend like certain amount of money on my upskilling. So I thought that there's a big, and there's a talent shortage also in India. Like 83% talent shortage is there in the BFSI sector, which is the banking, financial services and insurance sector. 83% meaning that 83% of the companies in the BFSI space are not able to find the quality talent. This was again a survey done by LinkedIn and they came out with this number. So I thought that companies are not able to find the right quality talent. People are not getting a job. In India today also, like every year, 40% of the BCom graduates are unemployed. Every year there are 15 lakh people who become BCom graduates, out of which 40% don't get a job. Even in the CA market, if you see, 14,000 CAs become every attempt. So it's around 25,000 every year, 25 to 28,000. Out of which there are people who are getting campus placements job, that would be 50 to 60%. And although we don't have exact statistics of the people who are getting off-campus placements, but my guess is that 2,000, 3,000 people out of these are not getting a job and they ultimately end up doing practice or let's say some business. So even like in the CA, after doing CA also, there is like still some sort of unemployment which is there in the industry. And I thought that unemployment to hai and inko quality talent nahi mil raha hai. So let me upskill like people here, help these recruiters find the best quality talent from my batch and then get them a job ultimately. So people also want a job ultimately. They are getting that clarification that okay, job mil jayegi. And recruiters also want the high quality talent. So they're also getting good quality talent because we screen the candidates. We don't let anyone and everyone come in to the batches. So I myself take all the interviews and then we select the number of people. So that's the model about Kiger. And ultimately, I would want to replicate this to the finance industry in general. So like helping all these finance professionals, getting all the relevant skill sets which are not taught in your academia and then placing them in jobs. You see, in any curriculum, they don't teach you about, let's say, financial modeling properly. They don't teach you about, let's say, AI in finance. Now, ChatGPT in finance is a hot topic. This is, again, going to take a lot of time to be updated in the curriculums. They're not going to teach you how do you, let's say, use Python for data scraping or data analysis. So all the skill sets, all the tools that are required in the job training, like in the day-to-day job, that is something which we want to teach. As a CA also, a lot of people don't even know how to read an annual report. Ek annual report है 400 pages का है. मतलब देखते ही एकदम ऐसे दिमाग खराब हो जाएगा कि 400 पेजेस कैसे पढ़ने, मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं क्या करना है. ऑल्दो दे नो P&L, दे नो बैलेंस शीट, दे नो कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट, बट मैं खुद भी जब एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ने बैठा था फर्स्ट टाइम, आई वाज लाइक क्या है यार ये, मेरे को तो समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है क्या है. So teaching them how to read these reports, how to read investor presentations, how do you analyze the data, how do you interpret the earnings con call transcripts. So all the skill sets which are there in the finance jobs, we are trying to teach them that.
Understand one thing, because we have seen this trend from the time we started Zell. A lot, because many of our offerings also and yours completely is into upskilling. Upskilling is something where at least if you talk to freshers, they feel degree पर आ गए. फिर मेरे को जॉब लगने वाली है, and unless they fail multiple times, they don't realize also that they need upskilling. They don't want to spend energy or time learning more, which is not in the degree ka curriculum. How is it that you have seen this trend? Why is it that people have, and see, you have also actually come from that background. You had achieved a lot academically, but you had an issue when you had to present soft skills. So you faced that and you realized zarurat hai. How is it that a fresher should look at it? How is it that your audience looks at it? And how do you sort of try to bridge the gap between need and something that's a good to have? This is, the need comes later rather than at that time. So how do you deal with it?
I remember we also had this discussion, like last time when we met, we were discussing there are some things which is need to have, like let's say CA की degree है, अगर CA की coaching लगानी तो वो need to have है, like in the sense कि parents also want that their child should become a CA and उनको करना ही है, तो उनको classes जाना ही पड़ेगा. And then there are certain courses like the same ones, Excel, financial modeling, AI in finance, which is good to have. इनसे उनको कुछ ऐसे ये tangible outcome नहीं होगा, but immediately नहीं होगा, but it's like a good to have thing. मतलब इससे कुछ अगर ये नहीं भी किया मैंने तो चलेगा, मतलब इससे कुछ मेरा ये like harm नहीं हो रहा है. So that's a very good question. Let me break it down. So I faced this problem, by the way. We started off with 2-hour masterclass model where we used to, let's say, charge around 200, 300 rupees, and we used to teach them on topics like introduction to financial modeling, how to get your first job in finance, how to, let's say, crack investment banking interviews. But then realized that students don't want only a 2-hour training, like they want a tangible outcome after the training. So that was like a low ticket size, high volume model, which after a point in time I scrapped it out because seriousness of the students weren't there. 60% of the students preferred recorded and they didn't prefer live because these are like working professionals and they don't have the time for live classes. And the third thing which I realized was that even in the completion rates for these 60% also, 50% of them used to tell me, हाँ हम लोग करेंगे अभी इतना priority पे है नहीं मेरे, because this is not a need to have, which is what you mentioned. So therefore, I thought that let me now change this to need to have kind of a model. And what I did was then we did a more tangible outcome, like outcome driven. In my opinion, education businesses has to be outcome driven. And you can only give two outcomes. One is you give them a degree, which is like a CA, CFA or an ACCA, or a job, which is like a proper finance job. So I want to focus more on the job part because I am not an expert in giving them a degree because I don't have that expertise right now. You are an expert in that. But the job part, I think I am good in terms of upskilling them and then giving them a job. So people have that mindset कि अगर मैं इधर आ गया तो मेरे को job certainty ज़्यादा बढ़ जाएगी, and everyone wants a job today now because the job market is very bad. You also know that. Yeah. So that's why like we just changed it into need to have in the sense कि इनको हम लोग upskill करेंगे, tie up करेंगे companies के साथ and इनकी placements करवाएंगे. So basically a tangible outcome is there that you are helping them get their first job in life and they are going to remember you for the rest of your life because पहला job मिलना बहुत difficult होता है, and if they continue for the rest of their life in that job, like you've made their career now.
So for everybody watching, right, if they enroll with KEGA, what is the range of CTC they can expect if they get placed post your course?
Right. So basically, this first course we started for CA final November 2023 students, and this is something which is we started only for CS. Now the placements have not yet happened. In the sense the batches just started, so the placements will happen once they clear their CA exams. So we are targeting anywhere between 12 to 15 lakhs per annum as the average package. ICI gives an average package of 9 lakhs per annum. So any which ways I have my vision or the ambition to set that. मेरे को उससे ज़्यादा देना ही पड़ेगा, otherwise people won't come to me because वो बोलेंगे मैं CA करके ICI के पास जाऊँगा, मेरे को 9 लाख तो उधर ही मिल जाएगा. So that delta is what something I'm going to give them. And the second thing which I'm going to give them is the exclusive access to this 25 people. So we just select 25 to 30 people in one batch. And we charge premium, of course, because we give them personalized mentorship. We allocate one mentor to each person. उसको पूछते तेरे को कौन से industry में जाना है. If they mention VC में जाना है, we'll reach out to someone from VC. We'll spend 30 minutes every week with that person to groom them and guide them for the next 6 weeks. So that is something which we give them. And apart from that, we are also giving them access to these faculties who are teaching them for like the entire course. Like they'll ask their doubts and anything to these faculties on WhatsApp. कभी भी call कर सकते हो. Next 6 weeks is like कि हम लोग पूरा मतलब तुम्हारे लिए, like it's like that kind of a proposition. So average package I am targeting 12 to 15 lakhs per annum.
What you just mentioned, these 25 people, you asked all the 25 where they want to go in finance. Yeah. So what can you rank? What is
Sure. So I've seen a trend now. People want to get into private equity, venture capital, and like management consulting and even investment banking. So mostly like people want to get into P, but I've told them कि CA freshers cannot get into P directly. You first need to go into investment banking or management consulting, and then यहाँ से P में जा सकते हो तुम लोग because P is never hire CA freshers. अगर दूसरा रूट है तो तुम लोग MBA करो एंड वहाँ से फिर तुम लोग PE में जा सकते हो, विच इज़ प्राइवेट इक्विटी. Apart from that, there are certain people who are now also looking for the FP&A roles, which is financial planning and analysis. So there, basically, they want to understand how do you, let's say, build a proper management information system, P&L, budgeting, forecasting of big companies. There are certain pool of people who want to get into equity research. People want to, let's say, analyze a stock, analyze a sector. They are like, all of them are very driven about stock markets. We have like GD sessions after every class where we discuss on a particular topic and we give a particular industry and a stock to everyone, and then they have to just present their views. So everyone is like a driven investor in the sense they invest certain amount of money already in the stock markets. So equity research is one option which I've realized. And fourth one is the M&A, which is again investment banking, which is like corporate finance. So corporate finance, M&A, investment banking, these three are more or less similar only. It's just that nomenclature is different in different companies. So if let's say you get into M&A department of Aditya Birla Group, it is nothing like an in-house investment bank of Aditya Birla Group. You will do the same transaction which you will do in JP Morgan, but in JP Morgan you will be doing for other companies. In Aditya Birla Group, you will just be doing for Aditya Birla Group companies. So people also want to get into corporate finance and M&A departments is what I've realized. So these are the 4 departments which I have noticed after talking to all of them. And since these people are already doing industrial training at these companies like Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, DBS Bank, they also have the awareness कि okay कौन से department में जाना है and कौन से company.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because most of the people we speak to, they want to get into this, but they don't know what they sometimes don't know the full form of they think investment banking is to do with investment and banking, and that's why they're
Below this premise, he's saying that you said private equity, you said venture, you said investment bank. Can you explain very lastly, sure, investment banking with investment banking encompasses private equity, it encompasses venture, angel, etc. So what are the different fields in investment banking and what are, and it is only looking at this in a very crisp format of stocks and investor.
Sure. So let me break it out. So P, VC, IB, ठीक है? तो 3 को इसको break out करते हैं and then we'll come to IB में भी क्या क्या होते हैं. So private equity is basically a fund or maybe like it's a business of evaluating different businesses in India. For example, today, let's say Zomato wants to raise another round of capital. Lenskart wants to raise their Series E or Series F round, or Cred wants to raise another round of money. They will approach a private equity fund like, let's say, someone like a Kidara Capital or a Bain Capital or let's say Blackstone, Carlyle. These are like the private equity funds which are there. Some are global PE funds, some are domestic PE funds, the way I told you about the investment banking. So these companies invest like big amount of money, somewhere in the range of $100 million to $500 million. So $100 million is 800 crore rupees. They'll invest, they'll get like a good amount of percentage stake in that company. And then after 4 years or 5 years, they exit the stake to, let's say, another stakeholder, or let's say if the company goes public, they will sell their stake to the like buyers, to the public markets.
So private equity is late stage.
So private equity is late stage investing. Investing around $100 million is the average ticket size. And these are the companies, PE funds like Blackstone, Bain Capital, Carlyle, Warburg Pincus, Apollo Global, Advent PE and all of that. VC is early stage investing. VC and PE, the only difference is that private equity enters at a later stage of the company. Venture capital funds will enter at a very early stage of a company. Let's say today, if Kager wants to raise some amount of capital, let's say I want to raise $1 million. I go to, let's say, a Sequoia Capital or let's say Lightspeed or an Accel, which are the venture capital funds. They will evaluate my startup. They'll ask me a lot of questions. They'll do a due diligence. Okay, what are you doing, etc. If they invest $1 million for, let's say, a 20% stake, then it means that that company has invested in my startup. So that is a venture capital. So Accel, Sequoia, Lightspeed, Matrix, these are like some of the top tier VC funds. And even a lot of micro VC funds have come in, like Venture Catalysts, 9 Unicorns, or even like the domestic VCs which have come up. So that is like an early stage. They get, let's say, 15% stake in their first round, which is like called as the seed round. And they invest in early stage startups which have just started their operations or at a very early stage of their career. So that is the venture capital industry. So there the work profile is you talk to a lot of startup founders, you evaluate businesses very rigorously, and you then like submit it to an investment committee, which is like a committee of 3 people in that fund itself, senior people, and then they'll approve whether to go for the investment or not. Now IB, investment banking, I'll tell you, investment banking is like a mediator. You call it as a broker. So it's like if a startup wants to raise capital from a venture capital fund, investment banker will help that startup to raise capital from a venture capital fund. So again, giving an example, if let's say Kager wants to raise $1 million after a point in time, I go to, let's say, an investment bank like a Spark Capital, which is a domestic investment bank. Spark Capital has connects to a lot of investors, which is like private equity funds, venture capital funds. And Spark Capital on behalf of Kager will request or convince these venture capital funds कि okay, ये देखो आप and इसमें पैसा डालो, this is a very good asset and investment. And basis the deal which is happening, Spark Capital will charge a certain percentage commission, which will be in the range of 5% to 10% at an early stage. And this will reduce down to 1 to 2% at a later stage. So that is the commission which investment banks charge. So the main job of a banker is to connect the startup or maybe the entity which wants to raise capital to a particular fund or an investor, because they already have connects to all these investors. So that is investment banking. This is PE, VC, IB.
Yeah.
Now breaking down IB also, IB can be divided into a lot of different departments. One is IPO, which is initial public offer. Let's say Zomato went public, or let's say you talk about Nykaa went public. So all of them need investment bankers to determine the valuation, which is going to be there. So these investment bankers help these startups in order to go for initial public offering, determining the valuation, determining investors, कौन सा investors exit करेगा, कौन इसमें डालेगा. That is IPO. Then there is FPO, which is further public offering, which is like IPO के बाद और shares issue करने तो वो company को advise करेंगे. The third is basically, so this is again ECM and debt होता है. ECM is equity capital markets, ये जो IPO वगैरह किया, and debt होता है. If a company wants to raise debt, तो investment banks उसमें भी help करते हैं. Like for example, if they want to raise $10 million debt or $20 million debt, then they'll approach banks, they'll approach NBFCs, they'll approach venture debt firms वगैरह. Venture debt is basically your debt is given and it will then be converted into equity after a point in time. So they'll also help in that activity as well. So IPO, SPO and debt capital markets, and M&A, which is mergers and acquisition, which is like the flagship and the most common thing of an investment bank. So HDFC and HDFC Bank got merged. There were 19 investment banks which were involved in this transaction. And two of the major ones were Morgan Stanley and Bank of America. So all these banks, इनका job ही ये था कि advise करना कि okay, swap ratio कितना होगा, valuation कितना होगा, how will the restructuring happen and all of that, which is like the merger and acquisition. So I think, yeah, this is PE, VC, IB and IB में भी इतने सारे हैं.
So you do a lot of things. You do content based, you're doing, you're writing 2 books, you're also running data. What is, how, and I mean, you're relatively younger than us. So one of the things which I want to ask him is, how are you managing time? Because this is a big question for all the students out there, thinking that I'm already doing my chartered accountant or my ACCA, which is anyways a big thing, but you're doing multiple things still very young. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I don't believe in the concept of time management, honestly. I believe in the concept of time prioritization. For me, setting priorities is more important than just managing time. Ultimately, I feel that time prioritization will ultimately lead you to time management. So I have like priorities set. So let's say, for example, I was doing my CFA level 3 in November 2022. That time, November 2021. So that time my priority was, let's say, CFA level 3 exam, then my job at Aditya Birla Group, and then my content creation journey, which was there, like recording reels and all of that. So I believe that you should just jot down whatever are your priorities over a period of time and just try to achieve them one by one, and not all of them at the same time. So that is a concept which has helped me in order to manage my time very effectively. Today, if you ask me, Monday to Saturday, I spend time on my startup. I try to reach out to faculties. We devise the curriculum.
Yeah.
I have to handle the marketing operations, everything, because I'm the sole founder as of now. And Sundays are my shoot days. So 10:30 to 6:30, 7 p.m. we shoot for the entire week. We shoot a podcast. We shoot 2 YouTube videos. We shoot 7 Instagram reels. And we also make sure that we are writing 4 LinkedIn posts, which will be scheduled over the week. So that is something which I believe in, and that has helped me in order to manage my time. Apart from that, lot of sacrifices in the sense that there is no like personal life, in the sense that I hardly have any time for, let's say, going out or just having that sort of, let's say, attending even family functions in Nasik. That I have reduced significantly, unless it's like very urgent or unless it's very important. So that is going to happen, but I think I don't complain or I don't feel bad about it, because the journey is very rewarding. Like once you get the results, once you get that reward, I think that is more satisfying than all the personal sacrifices, I feel. So this is going to happen in everyone's life, I feel. At this age or at this juncture, when you start something new, the 0 to 1 journey is the most difficult as well as the most rewarding at the same time. But once you go from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 पे आप move होते हो ना, तो आपको लगता है कि 0 to 1 में जो सीखा है, that is like something which is commendable, in the sense that that is immense, and those learnings will help you to grow from 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. So I think for the two of you, you are at 10 to 100 or maybe even beyond that stage of your career. But I think even you can resonate with it when you started Zell. I'm pretty sure that वो जो first batch होता है, या तो वो जो first like traction मिलने का जो time होता है, that is something which is very satisfying. Even if there is 1 student or 2 students, you know कि इनका outcome अगर अच्छा हो गया, तो even if we don't make money, that's fine. But we need to ensure that इनका outcome अच्छा हो रहा है. Like these people are liking and spreading by word of mouth. So ultimately, that is something which I also want to do after a point in time.
Yeah, 0 to 1 is more about figuring yourself out and getting into those habits that will sustain. And just see if you can do it, like whatever you have done. And then once 0 to 1 is done, you put processes, you get people, and then it's all.
I didn't bring good my 0 to 1 was also very liberating, you know. There are so many new things, so you don't know what will work. You can, I mean, you can take a shit, you will like mapping operations, MVs.
HR also.
You can HR.
I remember we had this conversation. You were saying, so your first batch, I think you mentioned there was only one or two students? Yeah, only one student. You yourself taught the entire ACCA.
We had to, it's 0 to 1.
Expiring.
And especially because we have the similar mentality of 0 to 1 means okay, to do it limited, do it bootstrap, do it right, and then we worry about scale. It's not from zero only. You raise, you have a whole Excel big plan, you hire people, and then you hope and pray that customers will come and continue paying. And in fact, we were discussing before, you're again a very good example of this. You started Tega with a particular thought, but as you immediately sort of took customer feedback and quickly started pivoting just enough to know what the market wanted. So that's all happening in 0 to 1.
That's very important, I think. Pivots are going to happen in almost every startup, in every business. And as a founder, you need to ensure that you are not getting sad if you're pivoting your business model. You don't need to feel as if it's a failure. Yeah. It's like just understanding that this is not going to work well. Why do you want to waste time after a point in time on that thing which is not going to work well?
Have you read Lean Startup?
No, I haven't.
So 100%, I'll gift it to you. Okay, read this book. It was the book that sort of got this clarity for us, right? It was of course more towards the tech industry, but the concept is this: you don't make the product perfect. You make it as an MVP, a minimum viable product. Just make it enough to put it in the market. And based on what the market tells you, you make enough iterations. So you don't add anything unnecessary. Then you only add what is causing the traction to come forth. So I think, we do that with, even today, we are working on launching ESG as an offering, which is now going to become sort of a mandate in the market. So our entire focus is, in spite of so many years, it's only find what companies and customers want in the ESG world, and then only build that, so that what we finally offer is what is needed, rather than what all of us think as academicians or as entrepreneurs, students ko chahiyega, so let's add this feature. So it's always working backwards in that 0 to 1 journey.
So I think I've also read somewhere that a lot of these companies, even like Airbnb, Udemy, or even like the biggest of the biggest companies, took a lot of time to find their product market fit. So even Airbnb had experimented a lot before their main offering. They were doing something completely different, and after like 6 months, 8 months, they got to know, okay, this is the product which is going to work out. Udemy, it took them more than 12 months, I think 15 months in total, to find their product market fit. Ki, okay, ye chalega ya ye nahi chalega and all. So I think it's absolutely fine. It's like a very patience game. Entrepreneurship is like a very lonely journey, and it's like a very patience-oriented journey where you need to understand that nahi chalega 2 mahine, 6 mahine, 10 mahine, 12 mahine, it's fine. But you need to understand that once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. You don't need to quit. It's just that you need to pivot, and then you just need to understand ki, okay, kya chalega, and us pe focus karo after a point in time. Experimenting is more important.
And this Jeff Bezos is line, it's still day one. Yeah. So the 0 to 1 sort of level, even if you're at 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 or 100 to 1000, within that, you're always working on 0 to 1s to make sure that you don't lose sight. Okay, I want to go back to your academic days, and I want to talk for our students. So you ranked in ACCA also, right? I know you ranked in CA, that I even mentioned in your introduction, and you completed all 3 levels of CFA, and I think you did it all sort of back to back in a crunch period of time. Either course-wise, give us a little bit of your journey, or the common traits that really got you, and also to rank maybe. I want to hear what you thought caused you to rank here.
Yeah, sure. I think for rank, I don't want to sound this as a flaunting or a boasting thing. I just feel that consistency or discipline is something that helped me, because before my exams, I had this simple rule of switching off my mobile phones and before giving any of my exams. So before my CA final, 4.5 महीने के लिए मैंने mobile बंद कर दिया था. Even CA Inter and CA Foundation. CFA के पहले 10 days I used to switch off my mobile phone completely. 15 days I think for level 2 and 10 days for level 3. ACCA के लिए I think last few days I had switched off my mobile phone once again. So I think I was just very focused on the fact that I don't want any distraction in my life. I'm a firm believer of the fact that distraction को कम करने से अच्छा खत्म ही कर दो. Like instead of reducing the distraction, eliminate it completely. And the best way of eliminating it is by just eliminating whatever is the distraction. If let's say social media is the distraction, switch off the mobile phone. If let's say watching some television series or watching something on the TV is a distraction, just cut the cable connection. मतलब ये सब मैं करता था. This might sound harsh for people here, but this is something which I believed in. And it's needed actually. So it really helped me in order to like at least stay focused and without any sort of distractions. That's one. And second, I think I believe in the concept of effective studying. So effective studying is more important than the total number of hours of study.
So I was just going to ask you, please tell us about that. Yeah.
So I think according to me, studying effectively for 8 hours is much better than studying for 12 hours a day with 4 hours of distraction. So which means that whenever you're going for studying, right, you need to ensure that pura concentration wahan par hi hai, and there's literally no other thought which is coming to your mind, which becomes difficult at times, because like in your mind there are like n number of thoughts which revolves when you're studying also. So for that, what I used to do is that I used to ensure that firstly I'm locking myself in a room, and for 2 hours I'm just sitting and studying. In those 2 hours also, I used to take 2 to 3 minutes break after every 25 minutes. And I just used to walk, or I just used to like just think anything else for those 2 to 3 minutes. Apart from that, I used to download this. So there's a Spotify playlist called White Noise for Studying. So इससे क्या होता है कि let's say there is a distraction, there is a lot of guests who have come in your house and you're not able to concentrate on your studies. तो मैं क्या करता था, ये सुन लेता था, headphones पे लगाता था, White Noise for Studying. मॉम के मोबाइल पे डाउनलोड कर दिया था, एंड ये सुन के आई यूज्ड टू जस्ट स्टडी. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि देयर इज अ कांस्टेंट नॉइज विच इज देयर इन योर हेडफोन्स, एंड दिस इज द सेम नॉइज, सेम पिच, सेम टोन, सेम एम्पलीट्यूड. तो इससे क्या होता है कि योर कॉन्सेंट्रेशन इज नाउ टुवर्ड्स स्टडीज ओनली. मतलब ये डिस्ट्रैक्शन नहीं है, बट दिस इज बेसिकली एलिमिनेटिंग द आउटसाइड डिस्ट्रैक्शन. आई गिव अ सिंपल एग्जांपल. व्हेन वी स्लीप एट नाइट, फैन लगा के हम सोते हैं तो फैन का आवाज आता है कॉन्स्टेंटली, बट वी डोंट फील डिस्ट्रैक्टेड बिकॉज वो कॉन्स्टेंटली चल रहा है फैन का आवाज. इफ यू सी, नोटिस केयरफुली, थोड़ा सा आवाज आता है वो फैन का, बट वी डोंट फील डिस्ट्रैक्टेड. सो दैट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वाइट नॉइज फॉर स्टडिंग, कि ये फैन जैसा आवाज है तुमको जो लाउडली देगा, एंड ये तुम्हारा पूरा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन एक चीज पे फोकस करेगा. सो दिस हेल्प्ड वेरी वेल. These are the 3 things. Apart from that, I think like I used to be a morning person, so it's again subjective, morning or night, but I used to study the theoretical subjects in the morning at 5 a.m. and that helped me in order to improve my memory. And I used to write on a separate piece of paper also. And I had a stopwatch, digital stopwatch of G-Shock, and वो मैं चालू करता था हमेशा. Whenever I used to feel कि I'm lacking behind, I used to have a look at the stopwatch. वो constantly चल रहा है time. तो I used to think यार ये तो टाइम बढ़ते ही जा रहे हैं, मैं और टाइम वेस्ट नहीं कर सकता. आई ऑल्सो हैव टू कीप मूविंग ऑन एंड कीप रनिंग. मतलब एक माइंडसेट होता है कि स्टॉप वॉच को तुम लोग देख रहे हो इतना फास्ट मूव हो रहा है, तो तुमको भी मतलब एक मोटिवेशन आ रहा है कि ओके यू ऑल्सो नीड टू स्टडी नाउ, यू कैन जस्ट स्टॉप. तो स्टॉप वॉच पे जैसे ही 12 आवर्स हो गया मेरा दिन में, देन आई यूज्ड टू बी लाइक चलो आज मजा आ गया, दिस इज लाइक अ रिवॉर्ड आई वांट टू गिव. अगर 12 घंटे मेरा 9:30 बजे हो गया तो मैं मतलब चिल करूँगा, ब्रेक लेके मैं सो जाऊँगा. अगर नहीं हुआ 9:30 तक, तो जब तक 12 घंटे नहीं हुआ तब तक पढ़ाई करूँगा और उसके बाद ही सो जाऊँगा. So I think these are some techniques which got me an All India rank in CA Finance and All World rank 3 in my ACCA exam.
Which subject did you rank in, or you ranked as an affiliate?
So I ranked in SBR, Strategic Business Reporting. Yeah. And SBL was my favorite paper, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you ask me about the course-wise journey also, right? Like the CA or say fully, yeah. So about ACCA, I think one of the best things which I liked about this course was the practical application. I mean, this was...
Let me just ask a different question, right? And please answer. So finally, we have somebody who's done CA and ACCA and done well in both.
Yeah.
Tell us about the commonalities and differences and the ACCA journey. Just fill it all.
Sure, perfect. So that's a good question. CA versus ACCA, if you ask me about the commonalities, it's like both of them are going to teach you about auditing, taxation, finance. The curriculum, honestly, if you ask me, I have not given all 13 levels of ACCA because 9 levels were exempt for me after clearing CA. What I got to know after studying the curriculum was more or less the syllabus is very same, in the sense that they are going to test about, okay, financial management topics, cost management topics, auditing, taxation, financial reporting. The difference was in the SBL paper in ACCA. So in CA, there is no practical paper as such, which will ask you to, let's say, build an Excel sheet model, build a PowerPoint presentation, write an email to your bosses, write the minutes of the meeting to present to your board. This was something which was there in SBL, which is Strategic Business Leadership. I thoroughly enjoyed writing this paper to the fullest. मतलब this was the only paper where I felt कि कितना मजा आया मेरे को ये देख के. मतलब ऐसे लगा कि पेपर नहीं दिया है, ऐसे लगा मैंने काम किया है एक कंपनी में. That was the feeling. And I think this was the only 4-hour paper. Rest all the papers were of 3 hours. So firstly I used to feel यार 4 घंटे कैसे लिखूंगा, but 4 घंटे कैसे गए समझ ही नहीं आया in strategic business leadership. So in CA, I think again it's very technical, it's very heavy in the sense कि बहुत सारे concepts है. I think that CA curriculum में some sort of practical application needs to be inserted, which I've told a lot of times even on my videos as well. I think it's very, very theoretical, but now ICA has also started working towards it, and they have also started ensuring some practical application will be there. They have started with advanced ITD trainings and GMCS training, which is management and communication skills training, which will help people to get skills also while their CA journey is there. With ACCA, I think the best part was that the concepts were not that heavy or difficult. Like the questions, the level of difficulty was much easier as compared to a CA. The passing percentage is also very different. CMA, the passing percentage is 10%. ACCA, it's on an average 45 to 55% basis my knowledge when I give my examination. So I think isme ACCA mein like the chances of passing is also higher, level of difficulty is lower. More students are now getting inclined to foreign courses because they want to move outside India is what I have noticed after talking to them. ACCA is recognized in more than I think 160 countries, 180, right? So 180 countries where people are now also looking to move outside India, and if they get the visa, they can get a job through the ACCA or a CFA qualification as well. So these are my few cents on CA versus ACCA. But the practical application is something which I genuinely loved about ACCA, which is the strategic business leadership. उसमें मतलब ऐसा हो गया था कि annual report दे दिया था, and annual report पढ़ के मतलब we just have to give some recommendations. And I was feeling as if I'm doing a full-time job and I am just in an equity research company or a mutual fund company reading an annual report of any other stock and then giving my recommendations. So that was like one of the very...
Who started ACCA, when I was giving it, it was SBI was actually 2 papers. And then they merged it in 2016 to make it one. And SBL, I tell every student when we counsel, and everybody at Zell counsel saying that it's like a mini MBA. You study all departments in the world through the lens of finance. Like that's what SBL. And I've noticed that the people who enjoy SBL are the ones who have some innate little bit of an entrepreneurship bug in them, because that's what fires you up, right? You don't just do anything technical. You use everything, but then you solve an entire business problem and things like business models and this. You'll never learn in anything else except for maybe an MBA or in this paper. So I've seen that the enjoyment of ACCA for many people comes when they reach SBI.
No, I agree with that. In fact, even for me, I think, so I gave AFM and APM first in my first attempt, and the second 2 papers were SBL and SDR. So these were the 2 papers I gave, and AFM and APM, honestly, they were very similar to what I had given in my CA finals, SFM and costing. SFM is Strategic Financial Management. So for that, I did not need to study a lot, but at the same time, what I figured out was that SFM and costing, जो CA final का था, उसमें I used to write an answer on a piece of paper. And honestly, if you ask me, I am a very fast typer. I type very fast on a laptop. I was happiest when I got to know कि यार ये laptop पे exam देना है, ये type करना है मेरे को. My typing speed is 75 to 80 words per minute, which is considered to be above average. The average speed is around 40 words per minute of an individual. But I don't know, I type really fast, and that was like the happiest thing for me. And that is something which I really liked here also, because after typing also, I had to make calculations in an Excel sheet. And then I had to like copy paste that chart and then just upload it in the Word document. And it was like a very practical thing, मतलब जो मैं job में करने वाला हूँ.
Yeah.
So that is something which I enjoyed about ACCA. Yes. Yeah, actually you are right. So that is an inspiration for me, honestly. Like ACCA का curriculum is one of the inspirations for me also to start this. And the reason I've started with CA curriculum is because वहाँ पे है नहीं अभी है. So that's why that is a good market to capture right now. And maybe once that is captured, then things can be figured out in different markets as well.
Thought अगर आप पेपर पे एग्जाम आप पेपर पे लिखने वाले रहो, बट आप काम कंप्यूटर पे करने वाले हो, सो इसी इज नॉट डिफरेंट. इसे वही करते हैं जो आपको काम में काम आए. And that's how they changed the whole system. Up until 2018 was exam written on paper only. Then they flipped it, and it helps students seamlessly integrate. It also helps the target to understand that this is expected in the company. So big difference in the quality of students also comes out. And I don't think it's necessary to be CA pop papers in one go. And because the CA curriculum is made in a way for you to get in the failure loop. And I mean, there's some little bit about failure thing in failure now. When, I mean, if it's someone looking at you, they're thinking about cases, right? CFA, all there is done, got a good job, killing it income, increase it. So, what do you think about failure and any income?
Yeah, of course, every day. I fail every single day.
Please tell everybody, because we've seen that's what people fear the most. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree. My first academic failure, if you ask me, was in actuarial science. I was doing one more course called actuarial science, and I've cleared 6 levels of actuaries, but बाद में किया नहीं है मैंने.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so September 2018 was the first academic failure of my life. So there's a paper called as CT5, Core Technical 5. So CT is Core Technical. And I feel, so they don't tell the marks and all, but they told me that I failed in that examination. And that was like the lowest point in my life, because everyone in my relative, in my society, they used to think, यार इसका तो रैंक आया है CPT में, IPCC में, CFA में भी एकदम अच्छा मार्क्स आया है, तो ये एक्चुअलीज में कैसे फेल हो गया एक लेवल में. एक्चुअलीज में भी पहले 4-5 लेवल तो क्लियर कर ही दिया था फर्स्ट लेवल में. So I was talking to my dad. I was in Bombay, and I was very sad. I was dismantled at that point in time, literally into tears. I was crying, of course, because that was my first academic failure in life. And I spoke to dad, and I was like कि पापा अब इसमें तो मैं फेल हो गया, मैं क्या ही मुंह दिखाऊंगा पूरे सोसाइटी को एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट वगैरह वगैरह. सो ही वाज लाइक कि one mark sheet is not going to change your life. You have to keep on improving, and you have to keep on moving on. Otherwise, if you keep complaining and crying, then you're not going to become a better human being. Ye failure is just a message for you that there are better opportunities for you lying ahead, and don't take it to your heart right now. मतलब इसको ये failure को इतना मन पे मत ले कि ये तेरा पूरा destiny change कर लेगा. This is just one piece of mark sheet, and that stuck to my heart. Like that just that was inculcated in my mind. So that was the first academic failure. But then I realized that ये तो बहुत छोटा failure है, आगे तो बहुत बड़े बड़े failures आने वाले हैं life में. This is like just one small failure. After that, I think I got failures in, like, I did not clear interviews in a lot of companies. Like even after getting all India ranks in all the 3 levels of CA exams and having a good extracurricular activities background, I was rejected by Deutsche Bank in their final round of interviews because I did not have good knowledge about current affairs. I was asked questions like, what is the difference between cost price inflation and wholesale price inflation? What is the difference between real GDP and nominal GDP in India? And what is the number of real and nominal GDP of India? And iska मैं confused था, इतना मेरे को answers नहीं आ रहे थे. So they rejected me. Then BCG did not BCG did not select me in their final rounds because they told me that my communication skills are not that strong. And I got a feedback that I need to improve on my communication skills. Yeah, I think that was the day I figured out, I started कि मेरे को तो कुछ भी हो जाए, मेरे को improve करना ही है. And that's how I think this was the year I started content creation also. And the reason I started content creation was also because of a selfish motive of improving my communication skills. And at the same time, if people are liking and getting some value, then what's the drawback? Like just बनाते जाओ videos and देखेंगे अगर लोगों को अच्छा लग रहा है तो share कर लेंगे. So BCG did not select me. Mondelez did not select me because they thought that I don't have like good technical knowledge in cost accounting. Even a lot of companies, Bain did not even shortlist me because I did not do a Big Four articleship. I did it from a mid-sized firm and I was not a BCom from a college. So I've done my BCom from an external correspondence university, Pune University. So Bain was like कि नहीं तुमको shortlist ही नहीं करना है because तुमने BCom ही नहीं किया and तुम्हारा Big Four articleship नहीं है. So a lot of these challenges, I was like कि ये क्या फायदा है ये ranks का, अगर मेरे को तीनों इसमें rank भी है, मतलब कोई shortlist ही नहीं कर रहा है, interview ही नहीं दे रहा है. I was questioning myself whether I am a bookworm or what. Like I was like कि क्या मतलब corporate culture में मैं survive कर पाऊँगा या नहीं कर पाऊँगा. So these were like few other failures, rejections from all these companies. And lastly, I think another failure, or maybe I don't want to call it as a failure, but a learning only, like in Kager itself, like we started off with masterclass modeling, we started off with low ticket sizes, but got to know that people are not very serious about $200-300. They are not even watching the recordings and all. So we pivoted from that business to another model itself, which is now. So you call it a failure, you call it a learning, whatever it is. But I know that that didn't work out well. And therefore, we just changed our business model altogether. So these are like some fears.
You felt much better about it in hindsight, like because you achieved after you failed also, so you can get over that failure. In that low moment when people's results come and they really put in their heart and soul and they fail, we right now are working with one of the Big Four to place a huge cohort, but we have a massive amount of applications for it. I know a lot of them are going to be heartbroken if they don't get it. At that time, how are you, as a student specifically, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people, they don't even want to understand, or they don't digest the fact that मैं fail कैसे हो गया, like मेरे failure आया कैसे life में. So what I think here is that taking rejection to your heart is something which people are doing nowadays, which is a bad thing in my opinion. Like they are not able to handle rejections. वो ego पे आ जाता है कि यार ये मैं fail कैसे हो गया, मैंने तो इतना best दिया था, मेरे साथ ये हुआ कैसे. I think instead of having that mindset, it's very important to have a mindset of working on it and improving the next time, because ultimately once you give your best, rest things are not in your control. So I feel that things which are in your control, do best in that. things which are not in your control, कि examiner कैसे check करेगा, examiner का mindset कैसा है paper check करते time. All of these things are not in your control. उस पर bother भी मत करो. So there are like certain people you won't believe in the CA curriculum. They got 0 marks and the entire answer was right. People have filed cases against ICI because their entire answer was right, but they got 0 marks because the examiner maybe he did not check it seriously or his mood was not appropriate at that point in time. But this is also which has happened with these people and these people have had to give the attempt again. मतलब अगर ऐसे लोग भी है जो जिनके साथ इतना बुरा हुआ ये भी दे रहे हैं तो हम क्यों नहीं दे सकते is my point. And secondly, I feel that never take failure to your heart, like rejection to your heart. Otherwise, you will keep complaining and crying all the time. Instead, just take it to your mind, analyze what went wrong, and keep moving on and don't repeat the same mistake. And on the other hand, if you succeed, never take it to your mind. Otherwise, you will have ego issues. Take it to your heart. Celebrate it like a 1-year-old kid who's given an ice cream and keep moving on. Irrespective of whether you succeed or whether you fail, you have to keep moving on. If you fail, you have to move on to become successful. If you succeed, you have to move on in order to become more successful or achieve a bigger milestone in life. So that is a mantra which I have followed and that has always helped me in order to stay consistent and first.
I feel that for failure, and it's sort of what I'm going to say matched with what you spoke about your communication rejection from BCG. So I feel that when students are, or when all of us have this issue, the way to get over it immediately is to try and take massive action to do something which will be an achievement after. It might be related to the failure, it might not. So in your case, for example, you had an issue with you were rejected with your communication, and your response to that was, let's do content creation to get over my communication. In the same way, I feel that a lot of people, if they fail an exam, I mean, exam is not, it's linear. Like, you fail an exam, make sure you pass the next attempt. But if you don't get a job in this company, make sure whatever likelihood feedback and you go up. But anything, I'll give you a smaller example. At anything at Zell, it doesn't work the way we, sometimes you put heart and soul into a project. It is. The only way to get over it is double, triple down and do something which will be an achievement, whether it's related to the failure or not. So I think that's beyond taking it to your heart. Do something about it so that you get over it. Otherwise, because you also in your story, you got over things when you start achieving something after that. So that the failure sort of becomes dug into so many achievements.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Although I don't think I've achieved anything as of now. But I feel that people overreact a lot when they fail. Like, for example, including me, by the way. So when I got a rejection email from BCG, I got a call, by the way, from BCG, one of the associates. And I was told that, you're not selected. And at that day, I was like, yaar, kya ho gaya? I had prepared 1.5 months every day. I used to, like, it was as if I was giving an exam. 8 hours ka main rigorous preparation kar raha tha every day for 1 month for getting into BCG. And then I got a call that I'm not selected. So I think that day I overreacted and I was like, kya ho gaya? I was angry. I was like, I don't know what, I was behaving very weirdly and all. I think this is something which needs to change. So I gradually realized that there is no point in affecting your life because of an external factor. मतलब उन्होंने select नहीं किया तुमको, तो उसकी वजह से तुम्हारी लाइफ क्यों spoil कर रहे हो या तो क्यों तुम लोग affect कर रहे हो? Like, you're not behaving good with your family, with your friends. You're just like very short-tempered or you're not even behaving very properly. So I think that is something which should be avoided. Even with students, right? When they fail CA Inter, Foundation, they'll behave very weirdly for the first 1 or 2 days or maybe because that is the frustration. वो होता है ना, like pressure होता है कि पास होना ही था, मैं नहीं हो पाया, मैंने 2 महीने दिए थे, 3 महीने दिए थे, मैं नहीं हो पाया. That frustration is a lot in today's students. And I think this frustration needs to change or this needs to be analyzed. And इसमें parenting भी थोड़ा involved होता है. Like in the sense, I feel parents also should ensure that they are not pressurizing their children to do courses just because they want to do. At the same time, they are telling them ki, like, if you feel this is right for you and if you think this is going to be good for your future, give them the freedom to do what they want is what I feel. And ultimately, if the child is very sincere and dedicated, then he is going to come up with flying colors no matter what he is going to do.
Yeah, plus the child, whoever it is, if he's preparing for a job interview, like he said, you want to attend BCG. Your whole aim was BCG. It wasn't BCG's one and these two various C and etc. etc. To a blank teacher, I had 5 chances and one is disappointment. Here's failure to another level. So I think a kid must understand that, like, especially in exam to read back at us a call. We write the examiner corrects and that's it. There's no conversation per se. So I think what a kid would like to do or should be doing is prepare to 5 stages. So even if he doesn't do when what. It's okay. You end up the positive to look out to, not the what the only or singular goals that not make you anywhere from.
I completely agree. Yeah. So,
Well, I want to ask you about, I remember you told me about the start of your content creation journey. And I know again, a lot of our students because we all use Insta and YouTube so much as consumers, it becomes naturally something that we might want to aspire to become. At the same time, it's much riskier than having a degree. So now what you did was you had a nice combo. You had your backup security qualifications also, and I want if you can share with everybody the start of your content creation journey. How did you land up become? What is your niche? Why do you think people are following you? And combining it with the student life.
got it. Sure. I started content because a lot of people used to ask me the same set of questions. So they used to ask me, Kushal भैया आपने पढ़ाई कैसे किया, आपने क्लासेस कहाँ पे ज्वाइन किया था, आपने ऑडिट के लिए कौन से फैकल्टी ज्वाइन किए थे, आपने रेफरेंस बुक्स क्या यूज़ किए थे, and all of the similar questions used to be there. So I thought instead of replying to each and everyone on LinkedIn, let me create a YouTube video and share that link with everyone on LinkedIn. And that's how I started my YouTube journey. My first video was uploaded on 20th May 2020. When I watched that video today, I laughed to the fullest because the way I'm speaking in that video is much different from the way I'm speaking today. And although I laugh, but it's in good sense, in the sense that I have come up a long way. In the sense I've improved a lot in communication. I mean, the first YouTube video, if I watch, I was speaking so nervous, like in so much nervousness, like I am able to figure out, यार ये क्या मतलब ये तो एकदम डर के बात कर रहा है ये बंदा. But that video has also performed well because I uploaded my CA finance notes free of cost to everyone. Like I had written all the notes and I had scanned them and uploaded on Google Drive. That's how YouTube started. LinkedIn started because I started sharing relatable life stories with everyone. The way I shared with you, I was rejected by Deutsche Bank, BCG, Mondelez or Bain. I started writing those kind of stories, and I told them that just because these people are rejecting doesn't mean it's the end of your life. The organization where you work, that is not going to matter. But the work profile that you have in an organization, that is going to matter. So even if you don't work in BCG, but you're working in a startup at a senior role, that is much better because you can get much better exposure. So that was the message I wanted to give people, that just because companies are rejecting you in interviews doesn't mean that you have to stop approaching other companies for interviews and all. So LinkedIn started by that, and then Instagram started because I thought that people are now coming for bite-sized content as well. So I started Instagram where my team used to just take out 30 seconds from my YouTube video and upload it on Instagram. And then we started recording content on Instagram for people who want to have basic knowledge about courses, upskilling in 30 to 45 seconds max. So that's how this content creation journey started. And fortunately, it's been doing well. I think the reason people would follow me would be that authenticity factor is there, in the sense whenever I write a LinkedIn post or record an Instagram reel, they know that मतलब authentic है, like इसने मतलब ये सब experience किया हुआ है and ये authentically बता रहा है कि इसके failures क्या है, अभी क्या कर रहा है and all of that. So that genuineness is something which I think people like, is what I have been told. Again, I am not telling from myself, but this is something which people have told me. And second is like giving them crisp insights in a short period of time. So I think a lot of people have told me that the way I explain or break down things, they like the way I explain things. So I recently made videos on these technical topics, breaking down investment banking, breaking down P.
Or you work towards it?
So I think it is natural, but I have also worked towards it, in the sense that in 9th and 10th, I used to teach to my friends about mathematics. So I was a national topper in mathematics in IGCSE. IGCSE is basically 9th, 10th. And I was a national topper in accounting in my A levels, which is 11th and 12th. So in India, I stood first in both these subjects. And people used to ask me, "Kaise padhai kiya, and can you explain these topics?" So when I used to study, I used to teach them also. So like 5-6 people used to come at my house every day for 1 hour. I used to teach them. We used to discuss together. And that's how this explaining or teaching part had started, thoda, like in a very small manner. Although I am not teaching like professionally today, but I know that if I want to teach something, or if I, let's say, launch a course for 15 days, I know that I can break it down in a simplistic manner, which is why people follow on YouTube or Instagram. So that is something which people like.
So this is part one of you being able to break it down simply. Part two, for making it successful on any platform, is the finesse that you require of how a video. So you and I can break down the same topic equally well. But if that last leg is how to put it up on LinkedIn as a post, how to make the video on Insta or YouTube. How did you, again, is that also natural, organic, you come up from, you work with?
No. That is never going to be natural for anyone, in my opinion. I feel that it is going to come over time. So for example, LinkedIn, I got to know over a period of 2 years that you have to start off with a hook, you have to upload a photograph, and you have to like ensure that you are writing between 250 to 300 words max. All these insights have been collected after posting almost what I've posted 1000 posts in total in the last 2.5 years on LinkedIn. So after all analyzing all these posts, like that is something which I got to know कि okay इतना मतलब करना है, like ये hook लिखना है starting में 250 से 300 words होना चाहिए पूरा content, hashtags कौन से use करने हैं and all of that. And LinkedIn पे one impression gets counted when a person is viewing your entire post for more than 3 seconds and that is covering more than 50% of your mobile screen. So for example, आप मेरा LinkedIn post देखते हो, अगर वो post आपकी mobile screen का 50% से ज़्यादा cover करता है 3 सेकंड से ज़्यादा, तो one impression होता है. तो basically that's why people have started posting photographs, because अगर photos aesthetic है या appealing है तो लोग post नहीं पढ़ेंगे, photo देखेंगे and 3 सेकंड अगर देख लिया तो वो view हो जाता है. So LinkedIn is now becoming an Instagram in my opinion, which is okay because that is working for them. Instagram पे what worked well was like 30 seconds bite-sized content, start with a hook. The average attention span for anyone on Instagram is 3 to 5 seconds max. आपको पहले 3-5 सेकंड में उनको hook करना है and then ultimately वो 30 seconds तक रुकने वाले. So the first 3 to 5 seconds should be very, very out of the box or something that will blow their mind. So
how do you come up with them? Okay.
Yeah, let me give an example. That's again a good point. So I'm a big fan of networking. Like everyone knows in my social media following that I network rigorously, and I've told this ample amount of times that even in the building, I reach out to one new person every week and I do networking on a regular basis. मैंने एक LinkedIn post लिखा जहाँ पे मैंने first line ही चालू किया, networking is toxic. ठीक है? Now this was the hook. And people were like कि इसने ये तो networking के बारे में हमेशा positive बोलता है, आज इसने ऐसा क्यों बोल दिया? And then towards the second and third line, I mentioned that if you network desperately and if you just follow up for 8 times, 10 times, 15 times, that might become toxic at times, in the sense that there is a way of approaching people. 2 to 3 follow-ups is good enough. 10 to 12 follow-ups is not good enough. Like if you know that 3 के बाद नहीं reply किया तो stop, because you don't need to be desperate enough.
The basically for people who are at least watching and maybe want to try out content creation, there is no template. Like you said, I understand there's a hook and there has to be a photo, example on LinkedIn, there should be a nice conclusion and things like that. But within the hook also, do you have like a playbook, a template? Like you give the example of networking is toxic. That is just creativity, or that's come from a template or a model?
So I think that has come up with experience, I feel. And this has again come because I used to write posts on LinkedIn which used to start with very easy or very normal language or expressions. And then I got to know that, okay, you have to start with a nice hook and then you have to ensure that the audience is engaged. Like audience should at least spend 3 seconds. And if, let's say, you don't see an entire post on LinkedIn, there's a see more button on a LinkedIn post. Once you click on see more, then you get to read the entire post. If you don't have a hook, if the first line is not catchy, people are not going to click on see more. So that is the objective. You want people to click on see more, and that's why you have to give a hook. So networking is toxic, मैंने बता दिया, तो people are like कि क्या बोल दिया इसमें? And then उसके बाद I mentioned कि okay, don't be desperate while networking. Just be very professional and be like while approaching, just send 2 to 3 follow-ups and not more. So that was the meaning of like that entire post. Similarly, one post which went like the most viral, which got 10.6 million impressions on LinkedIn. I had started with, I don't have Netflix, I don't have Amazon Prime. So ये start किया था, and then people are like इसने क्या बोल दिया? Like इसके पास Netflix नहीं, Amazon Prime नहीं, तो see more पे click करना है मेरे को, क्या लिखा है इसमें? And then I mentioned that for like, it doesn't mean I'm not enjoying my life. And then I mentioned my definitions of enjoyment. And I just mentioned that just because others feel that you are not enjoying your life doesn't actually mean that you're not enjoying your life. It's very subjective.
I like going for walks and go.
तो इसमें like of course a lot of controversial comments are also there. इन लोगों ने एकदम ऐसे झगड़े हो रहे थे comment section में, but I was enjoying that. मतलब एक comment था, yeah, of course एक comment था from someone in US working in TCS, and he wrote like 25 lines comment, and he was trying to explain that why is Netflix good, why is Amazon Prime good, and all of that. That comment had got 95 replies. Out of 95, आधे लोग मेरे side पे, आधे लोग उसके side पे, and ऐसे एकदम controversial fights हो रहे. So of course I did not reply to any comment because 4,000 comments थे वो post में. It was not possible. But this is something which works well on LinkedIn. And apart from this, I think on Instagram, if you ask me, उसमें भी अभी hooks बहुत important हो गया, because 3 to 5 seconds is the average span of an individual. You need to ensure that first 5 seconds बहुत catchy होने चाहिए. So for example, again, like let's say मैंने वो रील बनाया था, आपने जो बोला कि एवरेज पैकेज कितना मिलेगा CA CFA ACCA करने के बाद, तो ये स्टार्ट ऐसे भी कर सकता हूँ मैं कि द एवरेज पैकेज ऑफ CA is 9 lakhs, द एवरेज पैकेज ऑफ ACCA is 4 to 6 lakhs, द एवरेज पैकेज ऑफ CFA is XYZ. बट उसमें आई जस्ट मेंशन कि मतलब आई स्टार्टेड विथ कि आपको आज की वीडियो में जानते कि आपको कौन से कोर्सेज कितना पैकेज दे सकते हैं. मतलब आई जस्ट मेंशन कि कौन सा कोर्स करने से आपको कितनी सैलरी मिलेगी आज की वीडियो में जानते हैं. सो विच मीन्स कि ओके लोगों को पहले ही पता चल गया कि ओके सैलरी वाला बोल रहा है, पैसे वाला कुछ बोल रहा है, तो ये देख लेंगे. सो आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग विच वर्क्स वेल. एंड एक रील मैंने ऐसे भी बनाया था जहाँ पे आई मेंशन्ड दैट द रेंट विच आई एम पेइंग राइट नाउ, it's not an expense for me, it's an investment, because I am also networking with people, I am building my own connections, I am using my own studio and all of that. So usme I just started that I pay rupees 50,000 every month for networking. Now this is again which is very out of the box, and then I explained कि कैसे ये मतलब 50,000 क्यों मैंने बोला वो rental था, it's not an expense, it's an investment. So these are some things which will come over time, and as you grow as a creator you will get feedback from your followers. You will get a lot of comments कि okay आप इस पे वीडियो बनाओ, आप ये करो वो करो वगैरह, and then automatically that's a journey to become a successful creator. Although I don't feel I'm a successful content creator as such, but I've spoken to a lot of big creators having 4 million, 5 million followers. What worked for them is the constant validation from their followers that whether they are liking this or not, and they read each and every comment. Like they are like कि जो भी negative comments है, जो भी improvements करने बोले वो सब ensure करना है next video में. So in my YouTube videos also I ask towards the end, which is the topic you would want me to make the next video on. The comment that gets the most number of likes, मैं वो topic पे next video बनाऊंगा. Which means कि customer validation भी हो गया. सबसे ज़्यादा likes है मतलब सबको वही topic चाहिए, and then automatically that video is going to work well because you're asking your audience कि क्या चाहिए उनको. So it's running a startup altogether. मतलब ऐसे होता है ना कि customer feedbacks, product market fit, first video is not going to work well, marketing कैसे करोगे, how do you reach out to more people, scalability कैसे बढ़ाओगे, यानी ये सब.
It's like it's a different form of a startup only.
When I started my YouTube channel, right, so मैंने ना एक 20 लोगों का ग्रुप बनाया था, व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप. 20 लोग अलग अलग स्टेट्स में थे इंडिया के, and I was in touch with them because I was a part of a management development program where all the people from all the states had come, and we were there for 25 days. तो मैंने बहुत अच्छे क्लोज फ्रेंड्स थे, मैंने इनको रिक्वेस्ट किया था प्लीज़ तुम तुम्हारे स्टेट्स में सर्कुलेट करो, तुम तुम्हारे फ्रेंड्स को ये 2 वीडियोज़ जो मैं बना रहा हूँ, आई थिंक इट विल बी हेल्पफुल एंड वैल्यूएबल. दैट्स हाउ लाइक ये 20 लोगों ने और 20 लोगों को दिया, वो 20 ने और लोगों को शेयर किया, एंड दैट्स हाउ लाइक the initial journey started. So this is like a perfect example of how do you acquire your first customers. फिर LinkedIn post also, if you ask me today also, 4 लोगों का ग्रुप है, मैं सबको पूछता हूँ कि ये पोस्ट अच्छा है क्या, अगर सब अप्रूव करते तो ही वो LinkedIn पे जाएगा. तो कस्टमर वैलिडेशन कि ओके ये होगा नहीं होगा, फिर मतलब इसमें कैसे फ्रेम करना है, क्या चेंज करना है, and all of that. I think all these things will come over time, but it helps a lot in content creation.
Awesome. Okay, so as a concluding question, right, I just want to leave specifically my students with your background. So you had explained a little bit about how you managed to study for these papers, but as a last question, I want to go a little technical, right? So at least surrounding ACCA and CFA, one of the things, for example, we keep pushing for students is that sometimes you might not study everything properly, but as long as you give enough mock exams before the final exam, it sort of, I had experienced that for SBL. The SBL back then was business analysis. I was short of time. So मैंने textbook है ना, मतलब I had almost like burnt it. I didn't use only the entire exam kit, which is only past paper के questions. I only dove into that, learned concepts only from answering questions, and that's how in the last couple of weeks I managed to complete the curriculum and clear the exam. And then when I started teaching, I went through the whole textbook back. That's how I did. So like that, if you can give us any tangible steps that you knew were like, maybe people don't talk about it, but that was a tipping point.
Right. I think mock test is definitely one particular strategy for clearing the exams. You get to know about the entire way of writing your answers and whether you're able to manage your time or not. That was one strategy which helped me in order to clear these exams. The second thing would be that I always believed in completing like the entire curriculum. Matlab, I do 3 revisions. So before giving any paper, CA, CFA, ACCA, beat any paper, I used to do 3 total readings. So first reading of the modules जो भी होगा, then second reading जो highlight किया था वही पढ़ना है पूरा, and third reading before the examination कि okay पूरा 1 दिन में या 2 दिन में पूरा book खत्म हो जाना चाहिए. So that I followed it very rigorously, and that helped me in order to clear these exams in a very meticulous manner. And specifically about ACCA and CFA, right? What I used to ensure was that one day before the exam जो पढ़ाई करते हो ना, like for CFA I referred Secret Sauce, जो एक book होता है जहाँ पे एक दिन पहले आपको पूरा summary book है, वहाँ पे पूरा आपको summary मिल जाएगा. And even on the examination day, I used to just refer those main formula and all. So I had written all the important formula and which were very difficult, on a separate piece of paper. And मैं यही पेपर हमेशा एग्जाम के दिन पढ़ता था गाड़ी में, या तो ट्रैवल करते करते, या तो एग्जाम के 10-15 मिनट पहले, ताकि एटलीस्ट ये याद हो जाए जो डिफिकल्ट फॉर्मूला है. सो दैट वर्कड आउट रियली वेल फॉर मी. एंड द थर्ड थिंग इज हाईलाइटिंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ ये भी एक, दिस इज अ स्किल इन इटसेल्फ. मतलब what to highlight, what not to highlight in your first reading, because आपको समझ आना चाहिए कि क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्या नहीं इंपॉर्टेंट है, ताकि सेकंड रीडिंग में आप सिर्फ वही पढ़ो जो आपने हाईलाइट किया है. एंड दिस इज अ स्किल विच विल कम विथ मोर रीडिंग एंड मोर प्रैक्टिस इज व्हाट आई फील. तो आपको एक सिक्स सेंस लगना चाहिए कि ये क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता है इंस्टीट्यूट, या तो ये क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, तो इसको हाईलाइट करो. आई यूज टू मार्क आर फॉर रिवाइज. So let's say if there is any question which I feel is very difficult and the chances of this question coming into the examination are very high, I will mark it as R, and one day before the exam I'll revise this entire question and solve it on a separate piece of paper. So this really helped me in order to complete my entire curriculum 1 or 2 days before the exam, ensure that I am memorizing the important formulae which are there, and also ensure that I am completing the entire curriculum in the last 1 or 2 days, because a lot of people then skip certain topics. I was a firm believer कि मेरे को तो पूरा पढ़ना ही है, and पूरा पेपर भी अटेम्प्ट करना है. बाय द वे आई डिड नॉट इवन लाइक मिस 1 मार्क. मतलब मेरे को क्वेश्चन नहीं भी आया ना, मैं कुछ ना कुछ लिख के आऊँगा. सो दैट इज समथिंग विच आई बिलीव इन, दैट यू नीड टू अटेम्प्ट एंटायर 100 मार्क्स ऑफ योर पेपर. अगर 80 आता है और 20 नहीं भी आता है, और 20 में से आपको 2 भी मिल गए ना, दैट इज मोर देन सफिशिएंट. लाइक इट्स बेटर देन नथिंग. एग्जैक्टली. एंड वो 20 एंड में सॉल्व करो. लाइक डोंट सॉल्व इट इन द फर्स्ट हाफ एन आवर एंड ऑल. लाइक सॉल्व द फर्स्ट 80 इन द फर्स्ट 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Last half an hour से बोला वो 20 में bluff करके आ जाओ, which I did in my CA, CFA, ACCA, all the exams, and that has helped me in order to get good marks. So I think these are some tipping points or strategies that helped me in order to crack these exams.
Awesome, yeah. Just any concluding thoughts from your end about Zell, Kager, ACCA, CFA, you, us, please.
No, sure. I think firstly, you guys are doing a commendable job. So thanks for inspiring me on my startup journey as well. One concluding remark to everyone who's thinking to pursue finance courses is that just ensure that you are very much also into internships or doing your practical, like you are also enjoying your practical life and experiencing that. Like just don't focus on theoretical concepts, focus on the practical side as well, which will help you get a job ultimately. And the practical life is much different than the theoretical life. Trust me, guys. So if you are someone who's watching this, I would encourage all of you to start internships, or at least start working under someone for, let's say, 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. Try to understand that practical reality, and that will help you in order to ace your exams also, and that will also help you in order to get a good job in any company in the finance domain. So that is one piece of advice. And apart from that, I think you should also, like, one generic piece of advice not related to finance is that I always use this quote: if you don't sacrifice for what you want, then what you want becomes the sacrifice. So if you really need to achieve something, you have to sacrifice some or the other thing. Otherwise, the thing that you want will get sacrificed some or the other day. So don't consider all these sacrifices as drawbacks. Don't complain about these sacrifices. Just ensure that you are going to get something which is going to be much bigger than all these sacrifices, which is going to be worth it at the end of the day. So that's my message to all of you.
Awesome, yeah. Thank you so much. I hope everybody hopefully learns a lot from this. And great, yeah. If there is an amazing reaction, we'll definitely do a part 2.
For sure. And thank you so much for having me. I hope I could add some value, and would look forward to keeping in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you.